All right, so for Algebra 2 for the week of, what is today? Today's 9/11. Yes, big day. Lots of celebrations, or not celebrations, remembrances going on in the countrywide. So quite a day for our country. Not that y'all remember, y'all weren't born. But let's look at our third hour Algebra 2. This will be a short class today because we don't have anything new to cover. Let's look at our grade screen. See, we had 2 assignments due back on the 3rd. There were 2 assignments due last week, which was due last night, basically 13 hours ago. So this week, all we have is the test. So it's due Sunday, parts 1 and part 2. If you haven't done some of this yet, you're not ready for the test. So let's go look at the activity screen here. There is it says review and practice test. There's no practice test, but it does have a review for you here. So if you have, come on, pull it up here. If you've not taken notes, here's your last chance right here to get some notes. Lesson 1, solving systems of equation algebraically. Here is the summary of what we learned in that lesson. How to solve them graphically, right there in that lesson, and then nonlinear and graphing nonlinear. So this is a summary of what we learned. So looking at our exam for this week, there's 2 parts to it, part 1 and part 2. We're going to review them here. This is the instructions, and congratulations, you've completed the module. So please review all the information taught in the lessons. Complete all your assignments before you take the test. All right, so make a mental note, give 100% of your attention. Don't be trying to do 2 or 3 things while you're taking the test, because this counts. There's 2 parts. Let's look at part 1. It says 1 attempt. So this is not something you could take over and over again. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how many. There's multiple choice. 10 questions. 10 multiple choice questions in part 1. Gives you, like, here's an equation of a circle, and it gives you some points from a line. Wants to know, will that line intersect this circle? Yes, 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 or no. Yes at negative and positive x coordinates. Yes, both at negative. Yes, both at positive, or 0. So there's one where which graph solves the equation below. So if we gave you this equation, which would be the graph of that equation? Of those 4 graphs. Just different multiple choice problems. How can you set this up as a system of equations? Which one of those would correctly be the same equations? So 10 multiple choice. Let's look at part 2. Yes, I'm sure I want to leave. I know I've not filled out the test. Let's look at part 2. Part 2, you have to type the answers. It says solve the following system of equations for x and show all work. So to get the full 10 points, you need to take those 2 equations, put them down here, and solve it. Now, if you're not familiar with Buzz, and for those of you who don't remember, if I actually want something to look right, because look, if I go y equals negative x squared plus 4, I mean, we can look at that and it's like, well, that's okay. But if I hit this plus minus button, and now I say y equals negative x squared plus 4, save. Now it prints it like that. That's a lot easier to read than that is. So when you're typing an equation in Buzz, use this insert equation button right there. Insert equation. Look for that little plus minus check mark. So it looks correct. So you're not confused. That negative is hardly visible right there. It's a little bitty. It's a lot bigger when you have it as an equation. So when you're doing this, use the plus minus button when you're writing an equation. If you're just typing words, that's fine. All right. Can you use Desmos on the test? Yes, you may. Yes, I don't ban Desmos for any reason. If it helps you to graph something, It may tell you something. And especially if you're doing this. Now, for this, it says show your work. So you can't just put a picture of Desmos and say, that's my work. But after you put your work, you can go to Desmos and check to see if you're right. You can graph this and then graph that and see if you came up with the right answer algebraically. But this says solve for x. So you have to have an x equals solve for x to show your work. But yes, you can use Desmos to go back and say, here, I checked it, it's right. A linear function that represents the number of hot dogs purchased at a football game is compared to a different linear function that represents the time left in the game. So you got one function that talks about the number of hot dogs purchased. The other one talks about time left in the game. So describe the key features of the functions that you need to know to determine if these lines intersect. What are the key features? What's important to know about those two functions? They're both based on time, right? Because the number of hot dogs purchased as the game goes on, number of time left in the game. But what's important to know if they intersect with each other? So number of hot dogs, the time left in the game. Key features of functions, which are what? Usually slope, y-intercept, positive or negative, things like that. 4 questions altogether. Here's the third one. Your boss hands you a memo with a summary of the monthly data. The number of imports is shown as f of x. Okay, so it tells us right there, f of x is the number of imports. The number of exports is shown as g of x. So there's 2 different functions. This is how much stuff we ordered and got in. We got 3 pallets of this, 4 pallets of this, 5 pallets of this. This is the number of exports. We sent 1 pallet out this month. We sent 4 pallets out this month, 6 months. Use the data in the table below representing both functions, 2 different functions, to explain to your boss what is the solution to the systems of equation. This is basically 2 functions. We can do a system of equation. Those are points on a graph. You could write an equation for them possibly, but it'd be really hard to write one for this. It's not linear. The second one's not linear. This one's linear, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one's not linear, so it's not a linear systems equation. But you just need to say how to do it. How would you explain to your boss what the solution is? And the last question is, here's a graph. Determine the solution to the system of equation that's graphed. And tell me how you know that. Don't just say the solution is 3, 3, if that was a solution. I just pulled that point out of the air. Solution 3, 3. No, say the solution's 3, 3 because I can see this happened on the graph. Explain your reasoning. So make sure you get all the points. If you just say solution's 3, 3, if that's correct, you'll get some points, but you'll miss a lot of points for not explaining your reasoning. All right, 4 questions. 4 questions for part 2, 10 questions for part 1, multiple choice. Make sure you review. If you haven't finished some assignments yet, right? If there's something you haven't done yet, make sure you get those turned in first. If there's something you did poorly on, make sure you go back. Oh, I was going to show you. If you're not sure, say, I'll go here. If I gave you any feedback, it's going to be here, but you can look at the questions by going where the question tab is, and it'll show you what you answered and what the correct answer was. See, there what it was. It said 3x plus 4 equals 5x minus 10. That was the correct answer, check mark. If you had one wrong, it'd give you an X like this. Oh, I thought it was this one, but this was the correct answer. So you can go back and look at anything you missed. And you can also go look back and say, did I try more than once? Oh, this one only tried one time, so I should be able to take it again. Because I think most of them are set for 3 times. So you can see what questions were and see how many times you've submitted it. So that's it, guys. That's all we have this week. We just got to finish up Module 1 so we can start Module 2 next week. If you have anything that you're reviewing and you don't understand, you can get with me before you take the test. Hey, Mr. Brock, I'm still struggling with this, doing this algebraically. Okay, well, let's go over that before you take the test, right? Because I want you to do well. I want you to show me what you know. I want you to know a lot. I want you to feel good about it. So that's all I got for you guys. If you have questions, you can hang around. Otherwise, I won't keep you. There's no need for you to stay in class when all you have is a test this week. Nothing new to go over. Have a great week.